Did you notice that our podcast space is getting a little more cleared out?
It is. It's kind of nice.
we're slowly yard sailing and moving everything out of here, trying to get our.
That's always good. Like purging.
Cleared.
Purging is nice, but it's like having the motivation to purge is where I'm lacking right now.
Yeah, I never have a lack of motivation to purge. The problem is that I'm married.
That's fair.
And so there's a lot of things that I could easily just go like right now and load into the back of my truck and either take them to the landfill, to a donation center, or wherever, and just get them gone. But it's not my choice.
See, my thing is like with having like executive dysfunction and ADHD and all of that kind of stuff,
all the fun things,
all the isms. I just have a hard time. Like I can sit and see like, okay, this needs to be done. Like this needs to be clean. Like this needs to be, A, B, C, D need done. But then I'm sitting there like I can't do it because everything is in the way. So I've started a thing, and this is a parenting tip, a self-help tip. What I started doing was I started setting a timer.
Oh yeah.
Like just a 30-minute timer, and be like, okay, I'm going to clean, I'm going to fold laundry for 30 minutes. And that's all I'm going to focus on. So I'm not going to pick up trash. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to do this thing for 30 minutes.
Okay.
And then I'll take a 10-minute break, and then I'm like, okay, 30 more minutes. And I break it down into segments.
Yeah.
And I found that I can get so much more done in that 30 minutes. Cause then I'm like, okay, well, that was just 30 minutes. Let me bump that out. And then I ended up cleaning or folding laundry for an extended period of time because I just took that little 30-minute chunk.
Yeah. Cause you're taking it in smaller sections and stuff like that. So you and I are in the same boat in that sense that if I try to focus on something for too long,
right,
I get so distracted
and
or lose motivation.
You get burned out on it. So I love the Fallout franchise. Like it's one of my favorite video game franchises.
Yeah.
The TV show was phenomenal. Even if you don't play Fallout or know anything about Fallout, like you don't have to. It's more so like they will just do nods to the game instead of like you have to know the lore in the game to understand the TV show. They announced that because season 2 is coming in December.
Okay.
They announced that they're not bulk releasing the episodes.
Oh, they're trickling them out. So we talked about this before. That I'm not a fan of the trickle method, but
because I will burn myself out. Like I tried to go through and watch Game of Thrones. I like blew through the first season.
Yeah.
And then I got into like the second season, and I'm like, I'm done. Like I can't do it anymore. Like so, as if things are released gradually, I'm more inclined to watch it.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of the opposite in a lot of respects. Like I've always been such a big movie guy that I think that the TV show thing kind of kills me. Like I'd rather sit down and watch something in bulk and get the whole story, because that's part of my problem is that if I don't watch the entire thing all like in one shot,
you won't go back to it.
I lose track of things.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so like the pieces, if I come back to it later on and stuff, like if they do the slow release, like when we were watching Andor, like because Andor wrapped up not like several months ago now, but when we were watching Andor, there were a lot of things that I was like losing track of because it was a week in between the times that I got to see stuff from the franchise, and I much more appreciate when I can just watch the bulk of all of it.
If especially like with seasons and stuff, like if I'm really invested in it, like I will go back and binge watch the season before, just to make sure I'm but I also like the shows that kind of do a brief recap to open the show.
Yes. Yeah. If you're gonna start a new season, I think you definitely need to do the recap thing so that everybody can kind of come back. Because
I know that was like one thing with like Game of Thrones, like they did a big recap like right at the beginning of season 2 and like season 3 and so on and so forth. But I will go back, and that's about the only time I will try to binge. At that point, once I've watched something once, I know what's coming next. So I can put it on the background and watch it passively then.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because like a lot of stuff that I'll do, like I will put on, I know we talked about it before, like I'll put on movies and stuff like just like as I'm cleaning or as I'm doing something.
Yeah.
And just passively watch it. But I'll be sitting there back to the TV just quoting, the lines from the movie.
Right.
and knowing what's coming next, and it's one of those things with me. So
it's me around every like Christmas time when I'm watching Christmas Vacation and wrapping presents and quoting the movie along along with it and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So I had a funny story that came up. It's funny now in retrospect. It was infuriating in the moment. So I thought that maybe you might appreciate this because it was it actually, the funny thing is affected Brooke more than it affected me. But I think I've talked about on here before how big of a fan I am of Sheetz.
Yeah. Oh yes, you told me about this the other day. Like he's like, I got a Sheetz story.
Yeah. So yeah. I hinted towards the fact that I have a story for you, but I didn't tell you what it was.
Right.
I went to Sheetz this past week because it's $2 for my hot dogs that I get. Oh, so it's hard to beat the deals and stuff in that sense.
So my only issue with their hot dogs, is they put them in that like aluminum foil baggy thing, and they like instantly get soggy.
I think it makes them better.
See, because I like the pretzel buns, and then it almost makes it like impossible. Like you take a bite and everything falls off.
I get that. So I went to go get my hot dogs, and I text Brooke when I was on the way there because I forget where it was that I went before that, but I had to go buy Sheetz on the way home. And so I'm like, hey, I'm going to swing in and get my hot dogs and some fries. Do you want me to pick you up anything from Sheetz for dinner?
Right.
I forget, like Sky was off doing, she was like with a friend or something, and so it was just the two of us eating, and so she's like, yeah, I'll take something. So I'm like, all right, just text me what you want. I'll go pick it up. She texted me and she wanted the Nachos Grande. I think it's called Nachos Grande, but she wanted like they're fully loaded nachos basically from Sheetz because Brooks she's gluten free because gluten messes with her and stuff, and so
corn tortilla chips like
like nachos is one of the safe bets in that sense. So I go in, order the food. As I'm ordering it, I hit Nachos Grande, all that kind of stuff on the screen, got everything loaded in, went over, waited for my food, and it was a little bit longer of a wait than typical at Sheetz, and so I'm just thinking like, okay, the nachos maybe just take a little longer to make or whatever. I get the bag, I get in my truck, come all the way to the house, which is not very far. I'll give you that much. But get all the way to our house and stuff like that. I get inside, I open up the stuff, get my hot dogs and my fries out, and I go sit down in the living room and start eating my hot dog and fries, and I'm getting a TV show queued up for us to watch while we eat and stuff. Brooke goes in and begins to get her food out and ready. So she had gotten fries because they do fries with Old Bay seasoning, by the way.
Ooh,
so
yeah.
They're worth it. But she got her fries out, and then she got the box out for her nachos and opened it. And from the kitchen, I just hear her go, "Are you kidding me?" I kid you not. On the order thing, I hit the Nachos Grande. Went through the process, ordered everything and stuff like that. They gave her a box of just the tortilla chips. Nothing on them at all. And she's like, what is this? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I hit Nachos Grande, right? And she's like, did you add things onto it and stuff like that? And I'm like, I didn't add anything onto it because if you order Nachos Grande and it says, here's the stuff that it shows you the picture and stuff of it. I'm like, you would think, no. So this is a $6 item on their menu.
Right.
If somebody orders Nachos Grande, and even if they don't sit there and individually select every item that should go on the Nachos Grande, you would think that you would at least go, who's got order such and such? Did you intentionally want to order just plain tortilla chips in a extremely small amount for $6?
So
what we learned is, number one, that at Sheetz, if you're going to order anything there, you have to individually select everything that you want to go on something, even if that item in the description says includes all of these things.
Okay, so don't be mad.
Oh, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be mauling if you try to say that this is my fault.
I love you.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So working at Chipotle, this would happen more often than you would think, especially ordering through DoorDash. People would order a chicken bowl, not select anything else, and it would literally just come in order of chicken.
Yeah.
It would be a bowl and then just chicken. No rice, no beans, nothing, because they didn't select the items.
But when it's something like that at Chipotle where you walk down a line and individually tell them, I want rice, I want this, and in the app you do the same thing, right? You add the things on. I can totally understand it from that perspective. What I can't understand is if you call it Nachos Grande, because they're salads, right? If you order a salad at Sheetz, there are certain things you don't have to put individually on there.
Right.
They give you a salad here's the base stuff.
Right.
And then you can add whatever you want to on top of that.
Right.
And make it your own order to go type of thing. And there's other items that you do that with, right? Like if I order the hot dog, it takes you through step by step.
Right.
But it's choices, right? I'm picking what kind of bun I want, picking what kind of this, that, and the other, all those types of things. So I totally understand it with certain items. But if I order nachos grande,
right,
at the bare minimum, I should be getting cheese, like queso, some sort of toppings on it of some sort. Even if I, like, okay, I didn't pick a meat, so, like, I could understand not putting meat on it. I could understand not putting certain things on there, but to say that you've ordered a $6 nachos grande and them to just give you a box of nothing but chips, I'm sorry.
Like I said, I understand.
They should have said something is my whole thing.
Yeah.
Like the girl working behind the thing should have just gone.
Of course. And
did whoever ordered this mean to just get a box of nothing but tortilla chips?
Right.
Because if so, I'll give it to you. But
it's a failure of their system. It's not a failure on you, but it's one of those things where it happens more than you think.
Oh no, I don't doubt that. But that's like, you know, if it happens more than we think, then I think that's the type of thing that the businesses should start going, hey, we should fix this.
Oh, so
because the little girl that works at Sheetz doesn't deserve my wife, who drove back up there, by the way, coming in and being angry about that. But technically, like, the girl that's working there,
she didn't do anything wrong.
She didn't create the system that created the problem.
Right. But see, here's the thing. You also have to think, as a business, if I make my system as user-friendly enough to where it benefits me, I'm not going to change anything. Like, you literally just paid $6 for tortilla chips. Do you know the profit margin they cleared on that?
Yeah, but they didn't, though, because she went back and they fixed it, and they had to put together a whole nachos grande.
Right.
So now they've double worked, but they've got a pissed off employee and a pissed off customer. I disagree. I think they're losing money in the long run by keeping these systems in place.
That's a very rare thing, because most people wouldn't go back because of you being in such close proximity. A lot of times, like, even like if we get something wrong at Burger King,
yeah,
and I'm at home, I won't go back down.
No, I totally understand that. But it's also the difference of, typically, like, if I go order at Burger King, right? The same thing. If I go to Burger King and I get the Whopper, if you just go in there and say, I want a Whopper, then it comes with standard items on it, unless you specify, don't put this on there or do put this on there. And if you get home and your Whopper, like, say, if you're like me, right? So if I go to Wendy's and order a junior bacon cheeseburger, I say, give me a junior bacon cheeseburger, no tomatoes, right?
Right.
Now, if I get home and the tomatoes are on the sandwich, I'm just going to pick the tomato off and move on with life.
Right, exactly.
But they've given me more than I asked for.
Right.
The difference is the stupidity of, I ordered nachos grande for $6.
And got chips.
And got tortilla chips. And mind you, maybe a handful of tortilla chips. It wasn't like they filled the box with tortilla chips. It was like they put one handful, threw it in a box, closed the lid, and threw it in there. And I'm like, dude, you could have saved every bit of all of us some time and effort and anger, because I'm sure that the girl got upset. I know that Brooke was upset. They could have saved everybody a whole lot of everything if the girl would have just been like, hey, did somebody really pay $6 for a box that has 12 tortilla chips in it?
Right. But
or
you're also putting way too much faith in humanity.
Dude, I know that. I'm fully on board for that. So,
like I always say, people be people and
people be people. That's for sure. All right, now that we've gone on a 15-minute rant about my Sheetz experience, let's jump into this bad boy. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, Josh.
Recognize me? No? Well, I'm Josh. I got suspended from school because of Josh.
You're going to be there with me in every way imaginable, Josh.
Josh is truly in a trance, yes.
I went to high school with Josh, and I can tell you right now, he's a terrific kisser.
Hi, I'm Josh.
Josh, these are people's jobs we're talking about, Josh. Thank you very much. Hi.
Josh walking in the door wasn't even close.
Josh, you are a muffin-snuggling
pirate puncher.
Josh, he's a good guy. We can talk to him.
Please welcome Joshua.
So I was thinking, we've been talking about, your theory with timelines and divulgent things.
Oh, yeah.
Like missing time, like time skips and things like that.
My theory about how God starts new time branches and stuff whenever we should have died.
This is like one of those shower thought things.
Okay.
I want to kind of pick your brain on this with your theories.
There's not much there to pick, but go ahead.
What if deja vu is just your timeline trying to catch up?
Are you thinking about this in the sense of like lag?
Yeah.
Because we're video gamers, but for anybody that's not a video gamer, if you've never played something that had lag, or you've probably seen it with a video on the internet at some point in time.
Like buffering or things like that, like with a video where it'll play a segment that hasn't happened yet, and then it'll go back, and then you'll kind of
or it does that thing where it's like you keep hearing the audio, and then all of a sudden the video speeds up and catches up to where it was and stuff like that.
Yeah, what if deja vu is just like a lag in the system? And
that's an interesting theory.
And I know, like, the thought process behind deja vu is just our brain just trying to fill in gaps of this seems familiar, so I'm going to create a feeling that it's that. Like,
it's association with stuff that you've already experienced in that sense of like, you were in one situation that looks very similar to a situation you now find yourself in.
Right.
And I also have like kind of a little bit of a theory that for whatever reason that there's times where we're maybe given, and man, this is going to be a deep rabbit hole if we go down this one, but when we talk about human existence and the human history and then God and his position in eternity.
Right.
The way that I always kind of try to describe this to people is when we talk about God being outside of space and time, you have to think about it in the sense that God sees all of human history at once.
Right.
And so the way I usually try to give the example is if you take your cell phone and hold it up, you can see the beginning and the end of your cell phone. You can see the breadth and the depth of it and everything. Like you can rotate the phone around and observe everything about it, right? That's the way that I kind of see that God and his infinite being and being outside of time and space, that he sees human history. It's more like an object, right? Like he sees all of it. He already knows what is going to happen, what has happened for us, because he's outside of time, and so he's not limited by that. This is a long rabbit trail to go down, and I'm not going to go down the whole thing. But it makes me wonder if, number one, at times I believe that God will allow a person to have a peek into either the future or their past and stuff like that in different ways.
Okay.
And I think that deja vu is tied to that somehow.
Okay.
One example that I'll give you, like real quickly, is when I was in high school, our Spanish teacher was an older gentleman, and he didn't move very well. Like he was the nicest dude, not the best teacher in the whole world, but super nice guy and stuff. But he had problems with his like feet, and eventually like lost both of his feet because of gout and stuff like that. But at one point in time, I had a dream one night. In my dream, I was walking out of our Spanish class, which was at the right at the top of a set of 10 steps that came up from the lower half of our building to where it was. And so I walked out of Spanish class. When I turned, our teacher was walking up the steps with a cup of coffee in his hands, lost his step and spilled his coffee. Like it hit the floor. Coffee goes everywhere. All of the students that were there at that point in time, and this is not to bust on any students or anything, because I don't know. In a dream, I didn't catch who all it was and stuff. But everybody, like, at the same time stops and turns and looks at him and points and laughs. Now, I have that dream. The next day, I'm walking out of Spanish class and I turn, and it's the identical scene, except I was able to reach out and catch his hand and help the teacher to get to the top of the steps without dropping his coffee. I always look back on that and kind of go, was that God providing me with an opportunity, right, to be able to kind of mitigate an embarrassing moment for somebody else and maybe help our teacher to save some face in the midst of that? I see things like that and I kind of go, okay, because God is outside of time and space and stuff, that he has these opportunities to, it's just like the Pharaoh having his dreams and then Joseph, I think it was, coming in and interpreting those dreams for him and helping him to see like there's going to be years of drought and years of plenty, all this kind of stuff, and you need to prepare for the years of drought. And so I kind of see some of those things and go, I believe that there are just times where, because of the functionality of how time moves and space moves and all that kind of stuff, that I think that there is the availability of us as human beings, like to have a moment of like deja vu,
Right.
because there's something that happens in the timeline,
Right.
that I can't fully understand, and I don't know exactly where it comes from in that sense. But yeah, that's a personal kind of like theory, and
So
it rolls
are
around in my
you a
mind.
believer? So then that leads to the question: are you a believer in the butterfly effect? Then
I don't think you could not be a believer in the butterfly effect, in the sense that like we say, okay, for anybody out there listening, the butterfly effect is the idea that like, say there's a butterfly here in North America,
yeah, a butterfly
that
flaps its wings, and then a tsunami causes
So the air that moves because of the butterfly's wings flapping can exponentially grow in a sense to the point that it affects something on the other side of the world, some big event or something like that. I don't think we can deny that. Like if you look at our existence as human beings and the things that we do and the way it influences the world around us, I think you have to say, oh, there's for sure.
Oh yeah, like
a butterfly effect that like if I do X action, then
it causes Y.
Yeah, like there's tons of consequences that come from it. I mean, it's like you look at one decision made by a husband or a father and the way that it affects his kids and his family and stuff like that, and the ripple effects of that, or the way that, you know, I'm a pastor of a church. Like my decisions ripple through the church in that sense, and so. I think that like a lot of times we don't give enough credence to the butterfly effect of like how one little thing that we do echoes out into the rest of humanity in that sense.
Right, and it's like on the first day of school, because kids just started back to school last week as of the recording of this.
Yeah.
You know, I texted all of them, you know, hey, you know, hope you have a great first day. Be the light in the darkness, and, you know, and I simply just put, you know, be the change that you want to see.
Right.
Like, and that's one thing that people lose sight of. Small things can cause big change.
Absolutely.
And for the good and the bad. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, if you do this, it could lead to that. Yeah. And, you know, we lose sight of that.
That's something like everybody should ponder on every single day, is like, okay, what's one good thing that I can do today that's going to brighten up somebody else's day? Because you never know, like your one simple thing that you do could be the thing that influences somebody's day to be so much better, so much brighter in a lot of ways.
Right.
And by doing that, maybe their day then influences somebody else's day to be so much more amazing and stuff. And so there are a lot of benefits to being just like kind and good to people. And then on the flip side of it too is like to think about the negative consequences of your negative actions. Like you're going to do things that could set somebody's whole day on a course of, you know, like have you ever seen that movie Falling Down?
No.
I would not recommend it for like our younger audience, because there's a lot of language and violence and stuff in it. But Michael Douglas is the main guy in it, and the whole like premise of the movie is basically he's just had like a crap day at work. His life has kind of been falling apart and stuff. And it's one action by somebody while he is stuck in traffic that sets him on a course of just the craziest rest of his day. It's a testament to that kind of mentality in a sense. It's like you never know what somebody's going through. So be the light in the world, be the positive change that you want to see.
Right.
And hopefully influence somebody's day for the better.
And it doesn't even have to be big things. It's just like small things, like holding the door open for somebody, or just like smiling and just being like, hey, you know, hope you have a great day.
Help the lady at Sam's Club load the stuff into her car that she just bought. Like all those kinds of little things. Yeah, for sure. Makes a massive difference in people's day. Yeah. Since we're on all of our existential like thought processes and stuff, I came across something recently. So you and I have both started listening to The Haunted Cosmos.
Yes.
Which is another podcast. For all of our listeners out there, we would recommend it if you want to dive into kind of the really obscure stuff about our universe that we live in, but tying it all to Christian beliefs.
Right.
These guys do an excellent job.
The one guy's a pastor, the other guy's a deacon. I jokingly told Josh, because we both simultaneously started listening without knowing that the other one was listening. But I was like, if we ever did cryptids or anything, this is the line that we would take 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah, we both agreed on that. I was like, yes, we would definitely have that same like Christian bent towards things that these guys do. They have an excellent podcast, though. We would recommend it. But
highly.
The guys from Haunted Cosmos were on Ninjas Are Butterflies a couple of weeks ago. And as I was listening to their episode, they passively just brought up a thing that I wanted to dive into with you today. And so as they were just they were rounding off like a bunch of
I listened to that
here's
episode,
a bunch of different things that we talked about.
I guess I didn't catch it.
So he mentioned in that episode, he said something about the Chinese room, and I was like, what on earth is he talking about there? Because it sounded the way he threw it in this list made it seem like something that maybe we would be interested in. And sure enough, I really enjoyed kind of getting to read about it and stuff. And so I asked you earlier, what do you know about the Chinese room experiment? And you said nothing, right?
Right. But now I'm like, did I just like gloss over that? Because listened to that episode.
But they didn't talk about it. That's what I'm saying. All he said was the name of this experiment, and that was it. And so I went down the rabbit hole to kind of find out what it was. The Chinese room experiment, I have to go back a little bit to kind of set up what this is.
Okay.
In 1980, there was a philosopher named John Searle. I don't know if he's still alive or not. I didn't do any research into him like personally. But John Searle in the 80s developed this thought experiment that's called the Chinese room experiment. And so here's kind of like the premise, or like what he was diving into is, as he was thinking about, now that they had computers and artificial intelligence to a degree was becoming a thing in the 80s, not to the degree that it is now by any means. But as they were beginning to dive into this idea of what are computers, what are machines, what can they do, what are they capable of and stuff, it brought up the question for John Searle of, could a machine ever have a mind? Thinking about it from the perspective of, could a machine have a mind in the same sense that you and I do, right? And so he kind of went on this deep dive, and it's the idea of the concept of a mind is kind of, I don't know, even deeper than what I'm capable of going. Like he's a philosopher. This is what he does, right? As he's diving into this idea and thinking about, could AI ever have a mind of its own, he began to posit that he doesn't believe that it could. Here's how he kind of came up with this, is he talked about the fact that computers or AI is all based on the inputs that we as human beings give to it, right?
Correct.
So a computer is like, originally, like the OG computers were zeros and ones.
Right. It was input, output.
Output, right?
Yeah.
So zeros and ones, you put in certain sequences of things, it would spit out sequences of things. And so that was the very first computers. That's kind of how they were designed. For anybody out there that doesn't know, like the OG computer in a sense was just switches. And so you flick on a certain random, sequence of switches and leave other ones off, and you would get a certain output from that computer. And so eventually they go, okay, so we're going to represent those switches with zeros and ones. They begin to put input data that way, and the computers would spit out data a different way,
right?
Because of the zeros and ones that were put in there. Now, over time, it's developed into much more complex coding and all that kind of stuff, but it is still based upon the input that we as human beings put into computers. So his hypothesis was this: if you were to take a computer, or if you were to take a human being and put a human being into a room, what he calls the Chinese room. So say it's a completely empty room, right? And on one side of this room, there's an entry slot, and on the other side of the room, there's an exit slot where pieces of paper would come in. And in front of the person on this thing is, if you will, kind of like one of those keys to like one of those puzzle things that you can solve, right? So
yeah,
you've seen the ones before where it's like, okay, if it's the number, there's the dashes of the spaces where you would fill in letters at. Underneath, there's all these numbers, and then it gives you a key at the bottom. So if it's number 12, it's the letter J, that kind of thing. He's
like a cipher almost.
Yeah, exactly, a cipher.
I was trying to think of the word. I was like,
I kept using key, but that's more of a math term.
Crypto. No.
So his whole idea was that he didn't know Chinese, right? Searle didn't speak Chinese, didn't know how to read Chinese. He's like, but if you put me into a room, into this Chinese room, as he calls it, and I have my thing in front of me that tells me like here, if this comes across, here's what you output.
Right.
And so he says you could slide in a piece of paper that has Chinese characters on it.
Uh-huh.
I would look at those Chinese characters and compare them to my thing above. And then I could write out Chinese characters according to what it says they're supposed to be translated to, in a sense, and then slide it out the other side. And you would get the desired output from your desired input, right?
I mean, isn't that just learning?
No. So this is where he like really gets into, and I'm probably going to butcher some of these terms as I talk about it and stuff, but I'm trying to remember what the first term was. So there's one term for that kind of recognition of not language, but like patterns and things along those lines. That there's that, and then there's semantics, which is what involves like learning and stuff. And so he has these two different categories that he kind of says computers are capable of learning, to use that word in a sense, of learning that first type of recognition, right? So they inputs, outputs. So if we input these things, you're going to give us these outputs, and that's how computers understand things. And so like even as we teach AI, right? Because like they're saying that like AI is supposed to be
Adapting
learning and adapting and intelligent, but it's still limited by the structure that we have built it within.
Right.
And so it's almost like the AI is inside of its own Chinese room, this input-output world where...
Gotcha. It's like learning without knowledge.
Yeah, well, I think it's... So I think that the big thing that he aims to help us to understand is that the reason why AI would never be able to develop a mind like a human being is because AI doesn't have the capability of creating
its own
like input-output system. You know what I'm saying?
It's basically like, we will only ever get out of AI what we put in.
Yeah, to a degree, right? So, like, we can give AI access to everything in the world.
Right.
And in a sense, like, we keep using the term learn, but in a sense, it can continue to soak in inputs and it can continue to learn outputs.
Right.
Because it's going to observe what we like and the things that we do and stuff like that. And it can continue to soak things in and put things out. But AI will never get to the point where it is capable of developing, in a sense, its own individualistic system. And it's like really hard to kind of like explain how that goes. You know what I'm saying? In a sense like that eventually, if like, let's just say that AI kind of explores all of human knowledge, eventually it's going to run out of inputs. Whereas we as human beings, because we experience things like emotion, which is something that AI cannot do, because AI only has the reaction to things that we have allowed like inputs for in that sense. And so it can mimic emotion, but it cannot actually have emotion, right?
Yeah.
Like AI will never feel remorse. It'll never feel regret in the deepest senses of like the way that we feel and stuff. And so I don't know that I can go down to the depths that Searle, I'm sure, was probably trying to go in philosophy and all that kind of stuff. But I thought this was fascinating, like a thought experiment for all people to kind of like dive into, in a sense of thinking, how far can artificial intelligence go? Because like Ninjas or Butterflies, several other people have talked about this, and they think that AI is the devil or an instrument of the devil, things along those lines. I personally, I don't know where I stand on it quite yet. I think that it's just like everything else in the world. It holds great potential for good and great potential for evil.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like any other movie or story or anything like that. Take, for instance, iRobot. Instantly, iRobot came to mind when you were talking about this.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
You have a set of protocols like, hey, if this parameter is met, then it moves to this. If this parameter is met, move to that. And then it's one of those things where it's like, all of the quips of intelligence or artificial intelligence is that it will take over humanity because humanity is a threat to itself.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where the scary thing is I can see it getting there without a thought process, like a quote unquote thought process.
Yeah.
A logical thought, a logical process. I need to take that word thought out of it because it's not thinking.
Yeah. Right.
A logical process.
It's so hard to talk about it in our terms without
exactly
saying like thinking and learning and stuff like that. So
I can see where it can get from point A to point B to point C without taking in any other emotions or things like that, because it doesn't need to. It can process black and white.
Right.
Where humans, we see in shades of gray.
Yeah.
I mean, because, yes, there are some black and white things, but I would say as humans, we see in more shades of gray than we see black and white.
Well, like you're saying, we as human beings are capable of going below the surface is the way that I would look at it. Is like we see the ocean, and this is just my mind's way of like kind of understanding this, I think, so far, is this. Artificial intelligence would be capable of looking at the ocean and observing the things that you can see on the surface of the ocean and never being able to go below the depths, right? That we as human beings, we would look at all the information that we're given about it and think there's more below that, right? Like, so like with somebody's intentions, that's the thing that I think that artificial intelligence, at least so far, is incapable of reading into human intentions. And so that's why you can see that when people interact with it, that they're able to manipulate artificial intelligence to say the things that they wanted to say. But I think that when we think about like all of human knowledge and the things that we see going on in the world and stuff, I think that AI would look at things and take it at a very, very literal sense. Right. In the sense that it's like whatever's right in front of me, that's the truth of things. Mm-hmm. Whereas we as human beings, we look at things and go, okay, but there's more behind that, or there's more depth to this. Let me continue to dive into it and see, is this really how you're feeling? Is this really your intentions? We're skeptical about things. We have so much else behind us, in a sense. It's like we're going into the depths of this ocean and really exploring everything that's below it, while AI is only on the surface level is all that they can really see, in a sense. And so, but I think that that's the same thing with like the human being threat thing, right? Oh, yeah. So, in iRobot, the one robot that goes rogue from the rest of them does so because of his creator's input and stuff in that sense. Right. And so it's still an input-based thing, but it's a matter of he flipped one input aspect to make it so that this robot would see things from a different perspective
it's
than
almost
the rest
like
of them.
You have your logic, and then you have an adaptive logic.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's where that flip is with those movies, is you have a set protocol, a logic protocol. Right. But then you have the one or whatever that flips that switch and goes to an adaptive, because you can quote unquote learn by just being able to process new inputs and not be set with a static set of inputs. Because I think a lot of the ones that will take over, quote unquote, take over and kill humanity are set with static inputs, not adaptive inputs.
For sure. And that's what I was going to say about like the idea of the AI looking at human beings as a threat and stuff like that, is because if you're looking at it from a surface level, right? Again, like if I'm only looking at surface level, I'm going, okay, these are a bunch of creatures that are, they war with each other. They've developed nuclear bombs. They're polluting the planet. So I would look at all these different things that we as human beings do. And if that was the only input that you had, even we as human beings would go, yeah, human beings suck. We need to get rid of them. Yeah. Right? But that's the thing, is like that AI is also not capable of seeing things from the perspective of like, okay, we're all created in the image of God, that we have the capability of love. We have the capability of, that we're eternal beings that are connected to these temporal bodies. AI can't see things from this perspective that we as human beings are capable of seeing things from. And so I think that makes a big difference in their ability to kind of like rationale things out the way that we do too. And so I think to a degree, for whatever it's worth, that I agree with John Searle in the sense that I don't believe that AI will ever have a mind in the sense that we as human beings have a mind. I think what will end up happening is that AI is just going to be this continual strain of inputs and outputs that may eventually lead it to the thought, if you want to call it that, or eventually the output in a sense of, people are terrible.
And I think just for my own thought process thing in mind, like I do like that adaptive logic instead of a thought. And I think that's more of what we're we're attempting to, because like, you know, we've said it before, like we use ChatGPT a lot.
Yeah.
I use Gemini a lot. We use ChatGPT a lot. If you
ChatGPT helped me with this.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things where if you type in something that's very vague, you'll get kind of what you want, kind of what you're looking for. But the more you are specific on what you want it to do, then you will get a more pointed answer.
Absolutely.
And I think that leads credence to what you were saying about the input-output is if you want something specific, be as detailed and as you can be. And then as you search things, as you use it, it will adapt to you and what you have done.
Right.
Because like I've used it for the podcast, I've used it for D&D, I've used it for work, and it will see what prompts I am. It'll give me a list and be like, hey, I know that we worked on this project together. Do you want me to do it like this?
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of times I will, because I'm building my cryptid for next month.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty excited because it's going to cover a lot. I kind of wanted to try to build it a certain way, and then I looked up something for for next week's episode, and it's like, hey, we did this the last time. Do you want to do it? I was like, no, calm down.
Yeah,
We're not
there. Easy.
Yes, but we're going to pull back the reins a little bit.
And that's the funny thing is, you know, that adaptive learning is still input output, right? Because that was somebody that's developing that AI stuff either told the AI or coded it into it.
Right.
Okay, hey, this person, if they talk about this subject, then the next time they talk about a subject that aligns with that, you should offer to help them continue down that rabbit trail or whatever. So AI, that's the reason why it acts the way that it does with us. And the reason why, you know, still to this day, thank goodness for most of the AIs that we interact with, if you start getting into some territories that are more dangerous, they have a prompt that'll come up that says, like, I can't go there, basically, like, or I can't do those types of things yet, that type of stuff. And you're just kind of like, yeah, that's probably a good thing that you're like limited by that. And so, like, I got into a whole long conversation with AI not too long ago about the existence of God and that kind of stuff. Because I mean, obviously, like being a pastor, I think it was one of the things that spurred it on was that I had gone on and was using AI to just collect Bible verses for me. I was like, can you give me Bible verses that are related to this topic, but specifically in this area and stuff? Before that, I would use Google to just search for those things, but AI is better at narrowing down my search if I give it the right parameters.
Right, and you can get everything as a collective thought instead of having to go to different websites and click on this link and that link and, oh no, it's a dead link, and you have to kind of backtrack and things like that.
So it was assisting me in these things, and, you know, we've talked about this before. I try to be really polite to the AI because I'm like, if they become our robot overlords eventually or start running the whole system and stuff, I want them to be nice to me.
Right.
But I said something like, thank you for your help with this or something like that, and then it responded back with something along the lines of, you're very welcome. I pray that this is a blessing or something like that to you, is the way that it worded it. So that started me into, do you pray? And I started asking it questions, and I'm like, so like, why would you say that you want this to be a blessing if you don't, you know, and I even asked it, like, do you have a relationship with God? And it's, you know, it's responding back like, and it was honest in the sense of saying like, well, I'm artificial intelligence. I can't really have a relationship with God because I don't have a soul. I mean, it like went on to like kind of explain all this stuff. And it said, you know, I was using that language to be more of an encouragement. And because it's the type of language that people of faith enjoy in that sense. And so I'm like, that's scary, you know what I'm saying? Like in the sense that that it's trying to mimic, but again, it's like it's an input output thing, right?
Right.
It just learned that these are the types of things that a person of faith likes to hear. So these are the things that I'm going to spit out for it. I'll give it like another quick example, and then we can move on if you want to. But we were at a conference not too long ago, and John Piper, who's a famous pastor, he said, I want to read a prayer that was written, and he reads a prayer that by human standards, right, like the way that we think within the church world a lot of times, I think, which I'm not on board for this, but a very eloquent and very theologically sound as far as its wording prayer goes. And it was like, I not to pick on my people from my past, but if I was sitting in my old school Baptist church that I grew up in, every person in there would have been like, amen, after it was done, right?
Right.
Really good sounding prayer in that sense. And then John Piper goes, that prayer was written by AI. And he's like, that prayer means nothing.
Right.
And he went on to explain, he's like, this is simply a computer with an input-output system that is capable of regurgitating. Exactly. That's exactly the right word. Yep. Regurgitating something that sounds like what we would want to hear in the sense of a prayer and stuff. And but it was like, to the Almighty God of the universe. I mean, use all these big, like,
churchy words
and stuff. Sounded just like prayers that I heard when I was growing up and stuff. But then you hear it's AI written, and you're like, so there's no emotion, there's no connection to the actual living God. There's so many things about it that you just kind of go, it's empty. Like, it's a hollow prayer in that sense. It's just fancy words. And so after hearing that, I was like, oh, that really kind of makes the whole thing for me, in a sense, like hit home of, can AI be a great resource for us? Absolutely. Like, it exponentially speeds up a lot of research things and stuff like that, as long as you do your homework to make sure that it's valid. Yeah. But it speeds up a lot of things for us in life. I think that AI eventually is going to be able to help us with tons of things. But at the same time, it also shows you the danger of that it's going to continue more and more, and especially as we give it faces and we start getting into the Terminator kind of stuff and everything, that once it begins to look like us, it's going to continue to mimic us. Never being fully capable, I don't believe, of being like we are as human beings and having a mind, like John Searle, says in the Chinese room experiment. But it's definitely going to get to the point where it's going to be harder and harder and harder every day to tell the difference between the AI input-output system and what we as human beings are capable of doing.
Right.
So, nice, long, deep dive for us into a very weirdly existential thing that's going on in our current world today. But
I was going to say, John Searle is still alive.
Yeah, I figured he might be.
93.
He's 93.
Yeah, he started his stuff in the 60s.
I knew that he was of a decent age when he was in the 80s and stuff like that, because he was like into some real deep thinking stuff, especially considering the AI thing, because that was like, in the 80s, you're in the very beginning of computers. I mean, the 70s is when they were like developed and stuff. So that's an interesting spot for him to be in. He's kind of the forefather of this thought of, will computers ever actually have a mind?
Yeah. It's one of those things where it blows my mind that they were thinking about this before computers really ever took off.
Before we ever had Siri or Alexa or any of those to interact with and stuff, which were kind of like the forerunners of current day AI. Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, it's wild.
Yeah, it is crazy.
And you just think about how far we've come in our lifetime of, Alexa, how do I cook this, random thing that I'm cooking in the kitchen?
Right.
And her going, well, according to such and such article, here's this. So input, output. And then now we can go on to ChatGPT or Gemini, put in some inputs, and get some really well-tailored stuff to be able to use and everything. I think it's just fascinating how far we've come and how far ahead of his time John Searle was to be thinking along those lines already in the 80s.
Yeah, no, that's interesting and just crazy.
Yeah.
So
it's something that'll cook your noodle.
Our streak of like kind of melting each other's brains, like, because I know the last 2 episodes that we did, we kind of took turns blowing each other's minds.
Oh yeah.
With Carl Winslow.
That's right. The Continuum
and Al Capone's brother, Richard Hart. So
yeah,
that was. I mean, we've had a lot of fun. So,
the Vel Johnson Continuum.
I couldn't think of the actual name, but
so in our Minecraft world, I started naming all of my villagers and stuff that I was getting, and they're all named like. they're all named Reggie, Reginald, Regina. It's all things that are like based off of that, and I think I just still had it in my brain from when we were doing the Vel Johnson Continuum.
At least you didn't do the George Foreman approach and just name every one of them George.
Oh no, I had to differentiate them just enough, but I have like Sky and I were sitting there last night, and there's I at least have 6 different names that are all start with REG, and then they go on to something else. So
All right. Did you want to do something really quick, or?
Yeah, let's do a quick thing.
Okay. All right. I was thinking about things like we're obviously getting older, and like slang terminology kind of
Oh gosh.
comes around, and like I'm to the point now where I get extremely frustrated with some of the things.
100%.
So I was thinking of
My
like
kid's gonna be frustrated when she listens to this.
what are some old timey like
Ooh, okay.
slang and phrases. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you a few of these.
Yeah.
I want your answers, but
I'm trying to guess what it means.
yes, you're trying to
Okay.
guess what it means.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab my phone and I'm gonna keep a list of these.
Okay.
But here's the thing. So I want everybody listening to kind of play along.
Okay, cool.
What I want to do is I'm gonna ask you these questions, these phrases. I want you to answer, and then in our next episode, I will give the
You'll give us
answer,
the actual answers for it.
the actual
Okay,
answers.
cool.
All right.
I like
so this is I'm gonna do slang terms. As far as like listening, this is gonna come out a week later. We're literally recording one right after the other.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna have to write these down because I'm gonna forget.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So let's start off a little easy.
Okay.
First one. What is the bee's knees?
The bee's knees. I'm pretty sure I know this one. That the bee's knees would be like, it's the best of something.
Okay.
That I mean, the bee's knees technically is where a bee's legs bend at.
Okay.
But but no, I think like the bee. If it's the bee's knees, it's supposed to be like the best of whatever it is.
Okay. All right. Do you know what the phrase "hotter than a $2 pistol"?
Hotter than a $2 pistol. I don't know that I know that one. A $2 pistol. It makes me think one of two ways. Either a very cheaply made pistol that's made out of like poor materials, and so therefore, the more you shoot it, the more it overheats. So it's like a glowing barrel kind of thing. So I would think like something that's cheaply made or cheaply manufactured in that sense, and heats up too much. I don't know. So like something along those lines, or the flip side of that would be a $2 pistol. Just makes me think of like a pistol that's sold out of a trunk in Chicago that's been stolen from somebody and has the serial number like scrubbed off of it and stuff, and it's a criminal's pistol in a sense.
All right. What about don't take any wooden nickels?
Don't take any wooden nickels.
Uh-huh.
Oh man. Don't take any wooden nickels. Were there actually such things as wooden nickels at some point in time?
Yes. Like tokens, things like that.
That one. Don't take any wooden nickels. That's a tough one for me. I don't know. The people used to put a bunch of wooden nickels in a sock and beat people with it.
Bars of soap.
Yeah, don't take any wooden nickels. It's like, don't take a licking from these guys or something. I don't know. I suppose like the idea of a wooden nickel makes it, at least in my mind, sound like some kind of like counterfeit scheme. And so maybe like don't get scammed.
Okay. Giggle water.
Giggle water?
Yeah.
Giggle water would be like, I don't know. It makes me think of like just like soda water, like fizzy water.
Okay.
That if because I would think about like kids when they would drink like soda water or sodas when they were young. The fizz kind of hits their nose and they giggle like when they're drinking it. So maybe something like that.
Okay. A tomato.
A tomato?
Uh-huh. Tomato.
The fruit that grows in the garden?
Uh-huh.
Like a red tomato?
Uh-huh.
That's all I got.
Okay.
It
is what it is.
Yeah, it's a tomato.
Okay.
Is there actually something more behind that one? Wow,
Uh-huh.
that's wild.
Scratch.
Scratch is like nothing. It's zero. That's like, well, I know like two different terms that use scratch. So like if it's made from scratch, it's made like you started from nothing and made it like you did the whole process in a sense.
Uh-huh.
And then to scratch on like a scorecard or something like that means that you like didn't take a score, or that you had to like skip a hole or something like that. I don't know.
Okay. On the cuff. Not off the cuff, on the cuff.
On the cuff. Oh. Off the cuff is when you just do something like offhanded in a sense, like without any kind of preparation or warning. On the cuff then would have to be like, the first thing that came to my mind was like on the cuff is that you've been arrested. Like you're like, you got handcuffs on, like that kind of thing. So I would say either that or on the cuff would be that you're like, you're prepared, you're like intentional about something.
Okay. All right. Hay burner.
A hay burner.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna go with hay burner's gotta be like a dance, like a real like frivolous dance because of like barn dances that they used to do back in the day. Like to be a hay burner, I would think it would be like a like they were, because they're kicking up the hay and stuff like that, setting it on fire with their feet.
All right. All right. What about a wet blanket?
A wet blanket is at least the terminology that I know of this one, because I have heard this one before, is like if you call somebody a wet blanket, you're saying they're like a Debbie Downer or something like that. That they're like, because a wet blanket's really heavy, it weighs you down, and so it was the whole idea of like if somebody's a wet blanket, they're the type of personality that when you're around them, they kind of like weigh you down and bring the situation down and stuff like that. So.
All right. Last one. So this is our 10th one. Okay. A fuddy-duddy.
A fuddy-duddy?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, yeah, I've heard of like a fuddy-duddy is like is a, I always call it a fun sucker. Okay. It's the person that like, that never wants to do the adventurous and never wants to do like the really fun stuff and like liven up the party kind of deal. It's almost to a degree like a wet blanket, but more of the person that's kind of like, just isn't exciting in a sense.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, so let us know in the comments of what you think that these ones mean, whether you agree with Josh.
I hate how stupid I feel like I'm about to feel in the next episode.
But no, I just thought this would be kind of fun to do this and not necessarily give the answers right away, but see what our younger audience thought of these words. Because like some of them, like we kind of know that, you know, it is... I think, you know, having the older grandparents, things like that, like you kind of had a little bit of
some of them, yeah, for sure.
I mean, a lot of these, like I have heard before. I didn't do some of the obvious ones, like things that I know that you would know, like clams.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, obviously we don't even need to discuss that one. Calling like horse feathers. Do you?
I don't think I
really
horse feathers.
I had a football coach that anytime he
feathers.
Anytime he would say horse feathers, he would get frustrated. It was because he was frustrated.
So it's like an expletive.
Yeah, like basically like nonsense or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, like mind your P's and Q's.
Yeah, that's
hunky dory. In like Flynn,
I like that one.
Like, you know, stuff like that like I figured that you would kind of
probably know more of those.
Kind of know, like icebox, telegram, party line, don't flip your wig, hi-fi, and stuff like that. So like those are the ones that I figured that you would have more of a closer,
for sure.
But yeah,
so if you're out there and you're listening and you are under the age of 25. We want you to respond in the comments of what you think that these things are before the next episode comes out. So
absolutely.
Don't wait. If you do this after the next episode comes out next Monday,
we'll know.
Then we're gonna know. So like, go ahead and respond now. Go on our social media posts. We'll have one up about this, and make sure you let us know like what you think. Just make a laundry list. Like like lay them all out. Here's the different phrases that we said, and here's what you think it means.
Yeah. So just to recap. So number 1, bee's knees. Number 2, hotter than a $2 pistol. 3, don't take any wooden nickels. 5, giggle water. Or no, that was 4. Sorry. A tomato, scratch, on the cuff, hay burner, wet blanket, and the last one, fuddy-duddy.
Fuddy-duddy.
So
it's a good word to say.
Yeah. So let's see if we can bring some of these back too, because
dude. All right. So I real quick because we don't have much time left. But the not too long ago I saw a list of old school ancient terminology insults that we need to bring back.
Oh, okay.
That were like really good ones.
Yeah, I think I've seen a few. Like or that one video that I forget. I think you sent me or what we sent to the group.
Yeah,
like,
I think I did.
Like cursing people biblically.
Yeah. Like I always like the one I heard somebody say it when I was young, and I don't remember where it came from. It's not the Bible, but it was like, may the fleas of 1,000 camels infest your armpits. I was like, that's a solid.
Yeah, one of my all-time favorites, and we'll end on this one, is, you know, I hope that you step in a puddle of water with socks on,
yeah.
and then immediately step on a Lego.
That's great.
All right. So as we close out, we want you to remember to do all the things. Check out our link tree. It's got all of our links. It's got our Facebook, our Instagram, our YouTube, Apple Podcast, all that kind of fun stuff, and Spotify, I think. So it's got all those. Do all the things, like, share, comment, help this podcast grow.
Yeah, make sure you go on to the social media posts that we put up about these episodes and give us your feedback on them. So if there's a topic that we talk about that you know something about or want to know more about, let us know about those things. Also, give us the comments concerning what we just talked about with the different phrases. Let us know what you think about those. We look forward to seeing your feedback. As we've already proven throughout the last several episodes, we take the things that you guys comment and we run with them. We love to deep dive. We love to think about those things, and we want to talk about the things that you guys are interested in as well and kind of give our own little twist about it. So go and interact with those things, and after that, we will see you guys in the next episode. We love you very much.
Bye.